The Galactic Institute of Species Studies sat perched on the crystalline cliffs of Uxquin Prime, a monument to academic superiority that had been educating the galaxy's finest minds for 3,000 rotations. Inside Lecture Hall 12, however, superiority was about to take a rather spectacular nosedive. Felix settled into his hover seat with the kind of smug confidence that only comes from being utterly, completely wrong about something you haven't researched yet. His long ears twitched with satisfaction as he pulled up his data tablet, already imagining the effortless assignment ahead. Around him, his fellow students chittered and clicked in their various languages, the universal translator rendering everything into comprehensible speech with only occasional glitches that made someone sound like they were gargling gravel. "I'm telling you, Huxley, this is going to be the easiest credit we've ever earned," Felix said, his whiskers bristling with amusement. "Humans and their pet creatures? It's probably just going to be some fluffy nonsense about companionship and feelings." Huxley, whose feathered crest kept flattening against his skull in that nervous way it did before every exam, pecked at his own tablet with one taloned finger. "I don't know, Felix. Dr. Phantom doesn't usually assign easy projects. Remember last semester when we thought studying Krellian moss would be simple? I still have nightmares about the spore incident." "That was different. This is Earth we're talking about. Humans. They're barely into interstellar travel, and you want me to believe their domesticated animals are going to be complicated?" Felix leaned back, his furry face the picture of dismissive confidence. "They probably keep small, harmless creatures around because they get lonely. Maybe the animals make pleasant sounds, or something equally primitive. The classroom, if you could call a space accommodating 60 different species with wildly different environmental needs a mere classroom, hummed with similar conversations. The Quillen students, all rabbit-like herbivores with oversized eyes that had evolved to spot predators from impressive distances, generally agreed this would be a simple assignment. The Pix students, bird-like beings whose ancestors had spent millennia fleeing from anything with teeth, were slightly more cautious, but still optimistic. Then Dr. Phantom glided into the room, and the chatter died down to respectful silence. Dr. Phantom was an ilex, which meant he resembled what humans would call a deer, if that deer had been stretched upward, given six-fingered hands, and blessed with the kind of patient expression that suggested he'd seen every possible student mistake, and found them all equally tiresome. His antlers, ceremonial caps fitted over the genuine articles, gleamed with academic honors from a dozen institutions. "Good morning, class," he said, his voice carrying the gentle authority of someone who knew exactly how the next few weeks were going to unfold and was already mildly amused by it. "I trust you've all reviewed the assignment parameters for our comparative xenobiology project?" A chorus of affirmative clicks, chirps, and verbal confirmations rippled through the hall. "Excellent. As you know, we'll be examining the domestication practices of species throughout the galaxy, with particular focus on Earth's humans and their rather extensive collection of what they call pets." Dr. Phantom's eyes glinted with something that might have been humor, if humor could be weaponized. "I encourage you to approach this topic with open minds and thorough research. Assumptions, as we've discussed, are the death of good science." Felix barely suppressed a yawn. Open minds, thorough research, standard academic warnings that applied to actually complicated subjects, not to studying whatever cute fuzzballs humans kept in their dwellings. "Now then," Dr. Phantom continued, pulling up a holographic display that showed Earth rotating slowly in the center of the room, "who would like to claim their research subject? Remember, you must choose a specific species that humans commonly keep as companions. No duplicates. Each student needs their own focus. Hands, paws, tentacles, and various other appendages shot upward. "I'll take the canine species," Felix called out immediately, not even waiting to be recognized. "Dogs, right? That's what humans call them?" Dr. Phantom's ear twitched, the ilex equivalent of raising an eyebrow. "Indeed. Dogs. An interesting choice, Felix. I look forward to your presentation." Something about the way he said that should have been a warning. Should have been, wasn't. "I'll research the feline species," Huxley announced, his crest rising with determination. "Cats. They look manageable." "Manageable," Dr. Phantom repeated, and this time there was definitely amusement in his tone. "Yes, quite manageable. Other volunteers?" Lopik, another Quillen student sitting 2 rows back, raised his paw. "I'll study ferrets, Professor." "Ferrets? How delightful." Dr. Phantom was now openly smiling, which on an ilex looked slightly unsettling. "And you, Uksha?" The amphibious Kell student in the corner pool seat burbled through her translator. "Snakes, Dr. Phantom. The legless reptiles humans keep in glass containers." "Oh, this is going to be educational," Dr. Phantom murmured, more to himself than the class. "Very well. You have 3 weeks to compile your research and prepare presentations. I expect thorough historical analysis, behavioral documentation, and cultural context. Don't just tell me what these creatures are. Tell me why humans keep them, how the relationships formed, and what it reveals about human nature. 3 weeks. Plenty of time." Felix was already planning how he'd spend the extra free time once he finished this assignment in, probably 3 or 4 days maximum. "One more thing," Dr. Phantom added, his tone shifting to something more serious. "Many of you come from prey-species backgrounds. Some of you have evolutionary histories that involve being hunted. I want you to set aside those instincts as you research. Approach this academically, not emotionally. Can you do that?" A murmur of confused agreement rippled through the classroom. Why would prey instincts matter when studying human companions? Unless… No, surely not. Felix shook his head, dismissing the tiny flutter of concern in his chest. Dr. Phantom was probably just being thorough. Humans were known to be a bit odd, sure, but they'd been accepted into the galactic community. They served on council committees. They participated in trade agreements. They couldn't be that strange. Could they? Class dismissed, and Felix practically bounced back to his dormitory pod, tablet in paw, ready to knock out this assignment before dinner. Huxley trailed behind, his talons clicking on the metallic floor. "Want to work together in the common area?" Huxley suggested. "We could share resources." Sure. This'll take no time at all." They settled into the study lounge, a space designed with adjustable gravity, temperature zones, and atmospheric controls to accommodate the dozen species living in this residential tower. Felix pulled up the galactic database and typed in his search. Earth canines, domestication, common breeds. The first results that loaded were videos. "Oh, here we go," Felix said, tapping the first file. "Let's see these fearsome dogs." The video opened on a suburban human dwelling. Soft music played in the background, the kind of saccharine melody that accompanied about 90% of human media. On screen, a small, fluffy creature with enormous eyes and a pushed-in face waddled across a carpeted floor. It was wearing a knitted sweater with a pattern of small bones on it. Felix stared. Huxley leaned over to look. Is that the predator? Can't be. Must be a juvenile, or maybe a different species." Felix scrolled through more videos. A golden-furred dog catching a circular disc in its mouth while a human child laughed. Another dog, this one black and white, performing tricks for small food rewards, sitting, lying down, rolling over like it was the most natural thing in the universe. A third video showed a massive dog with long fur allowing a human infant to grab its ears while it gazed up with liquid brown eyes full of what could only be described as adoration. "They're wearing clothes in some of these," Huxley observed, his translator barely able to process his bewildered tone. "Humans put clothing on their companion animals. Why would they do that?" "Maybe the creatures get cold?" Felix suggested, though he was equally baffled. "Or maybe it's decorative? Humans do love their decorations." He opened a human website called Cute Dog Compilation and immediately regretted every life choice that had led him to this moment. Not because it was disturbing, but because it was so aggressively, weaponizingly adorable that his brain couldn't process it as anything other than harmless. Puppies tumbling over each other in a basket. A dog with its head tilted, making small woofing sounds at a human baby. Another dog, this one tiny enough to fit in a human's palm, yapping at its own reflection. Dogs in sunglasses. Dogs at birthday parties. Dogs doing absolutely nothing threatening whatsoever. "This is what humans keep in their homes?" Felix said, his voice flat with disappointment. "This is going to be the most boring paper ever written. Look at them. They're completely defenseless. They can't even feed themselves properly. Humans have to give them food in bowls." Huxley had pulled up his own research on cats and was having a similar experience. Video after video of cats lounging in sunbeams, cats being brushed by their humans, cats playing with stringed toys, cats sitting in boxes that were clearly too small for them but somehow fitting anyway. "Mine are even less impressive," Huxley said. "At least yours run around. Mine just sit. They sit and look bored. One of these videos is literally titled, 'My Cat Sleeping for 10 Hours. Who watches that? Humans, apparently. Millions of views. Felix scrolled through the statistics, shaking his head. They're obsessed with these creatures. There are entire human careers built around creating content about them. Look, this one human has posted thousands of videos of their dog doing mundane tasks. Walking to the food bowl, drinking water, existing on a Thursday afternoon. They spent the next hour diving deeper into the shallow end of pet culture, becoming increasingly convinced this was going to be the easiest assignment in galactic academic history. The class forum started filling up with similar observations from other students. Lopik posted, "Ferrets are apparently long, tube-shaped creatures that steal shiny objects and hide them. That's it. That's their entire purpose." Uksha added, "Snakes just lie there. Sometimes they eat frozen mice. Humans think this is entertainment." The consensus was universal. Humans had strange taste in companions, but at least the research would be painless. Felix was about to close his tablet and call it a night when he noticed a small footnote in one of the database entries. It was barely a line, easy to miss if you weren't being thorough. Canine domestication timeline, approximately 15,000 Earth years, descended from Canis lupus. Canis lupus? He tapped the hyperlink. The database took a moment to load, and when it did, Felix's ears went flat against his skull. "Huxley!" His friend was still watching a video of a cat knocking objects off a counter, one by one, while making direct eye contact with its human. What's Canis lupus?" "No idea." "Why?" "Because it says dogs descended from it. And I just pulled up the entry and Felix's voice died in his throat. The holographic display showed a creature that looked nothing like the sweater-wearing, trick-performing animals he'd been watching. This thing was lean, powerful, with amber eyes that seemed to stare directly through the projection and into his evolutionary trauma. Its jaws were open, revealing teeth that were definitely, absolutely, horrifyingly not designed for eating plants. The entry header read, Gray Wolf, Apex Predator, Canis lupus. Huxley's feathers went flat. That can't be right. The database must be corrupted. But Felix was already reading, his voice getting progressively quieter with each sentence. Native to Earth's northern hemisphere. Pack hunters, capable of taking down prey much larger than themselves. Bite force of over 400 kilograms per square inch. Historical range overlapped with early human settlements. He looked back at the videos of dogs in sweaters, then at the wolf, then at the dogs, then at the wolf. No, he said finally. No, that's not possible. Those can't be the same species. Look at them. But the database didn't lie. And as Felix began pulling up actual scientific journals instead of cute video compilations, a horrifying picture began to emerge. Those weren't just companion animals humans kept in their homes. They were tamed apex predators. And judging by the fossil records now loading on his screen, their ancestors had absolutely hunted creatures exactly like Felix. His paws trembled slightly as he clicked on another file. Wolf predation patterns and historical pack behavior. Huxley noticed his friend's distress and peered over. His crest shot straight up in alarm. Felix? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a predator, Felix whispered. I've seen a predator. And humans let them sleep in their beds. The easy assignment had just become significantly less easy. And they hadn't even gotten to the part about cats yet. The next morning, Felix looked like he hadn't slept, which was accurate because he absolutely hadn't. His fur stuck up at odd angles, his eyes were bloodshot, and he'd consumed enough stimulant beverages to make a Quillen's heart race at genuinely concerning speeds. Huxley found him in the study lounge, surrounded by no fewer than 15 holographic displays, all showing various images of wolves doing wolf things, which is to say, hunting, killing, and generally being the stuff of herbivore nightmares. Please tell me you slept, Huxley said, though he already knew the answer. Sleep? Sleep? Felix's voice cracked slightly. How am I supposed to sleep when I've spent the past 8 hours learning that humans voluntarily brought wolves into their caves? Not as prisoners, Huxley. As friends. I'm sure you're overreacting. Am I? Am I? Felix spun one of the displays around. Read this. This is from Earth's historical records, around 12,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence suggests early humans and wolves formed mutually beneficial hunting partnerships. Hunting? Partnerships with wolves! Do you understand what that means? Huxley's feathers ruffled uncomfortably. That humans are practical? That humans are insane! Felix pulled up another display. Look at wolf pack hunting behavior. They coordinate. They strategize. They run prey to exhaustion using endurance tactics. And here is the really fun part. Guess what size prey they prefer? Huxley really didn't want to guess. 30 to 80 kilograms, Felix said, his voice hollow. You know what weighs 30 to 80 kilograms? US. We weigh that. The average Quillen is right in the wolf's preferred prey weight range. Okay. But those are wolves, not dogs. They're the same species. Felix was definitely having some kind of crisis. Dogs are just wolves that humans, and I cannot stress this enough, chose to live with for thousands of years. They didn't even cage them properly. Look at this. He pulled up a video from modern Earth, clearly filmed in someone's home. A massive dog, easily 60 kilograms of muscle, was sprawled on a human sleeping platform, taking up most of the space while a human squeezed into the remaining corner, looking perfectly content with this arrangement. That human is sleeping next to a wolf descendant that could easily overpower them, Felix continued, his paws gesturing wildly. And look at the human's face. They're happy about it. They're smiling. Huxley had gone very quiet, which should have been Felix's first hint that his friend had made similar discoveries. Huxley, you're doing that thing where you get really still. What did you find about cats? Nothing. It's fine. Cats are fine. Huxley's crest was completely flat, which was the pic's equivalent of lying through one's teeth. Huxley, cats are perfectly normal and not at all terrifying. Huxley. The pic's student sighed, which came out as more of a mournful whistle, and pulled up his own research. Cats are obligate carnivores. What does that mean? It means they can only eat meat. They can't digest plant matter effectively. Their entire biological system is designed for hunting and consuming other animals. Huxley's voice was getting progressively higher. Their teeth are specialized for shearing flesh. Their claws are retractable, which means they stay sharp because they're not worn down by walking. They have night vision 6 times better than humans. Their hearing detects frequencies up to 64 kilohertz, which means they can hear prey moving underground. Underground? Felix repeated faintly. Underground! And their spine is so flexible, they can rotate their body 180 degrees while falling to ensure they land on their feet. They're built like little furry assassins. But they're small, right? The ones in the videos were small. Those are the domesticated ones, yes. Would you like to know what their relatives are? Not particularly, no. Huxley showed him anyway, pulling up images that made both students want to flee the study lounge. Lions, tigers, leopards, jaguars, cheetahs, all felines, all related to the cute house cats that knocked things off counters. This one, Huxley said, pointing to a lioness mid-pounce, can take down prey weighing over 200 kilograms. This one, a tiger, has a bite force of over 450 kilograms. And this one, a cheetah frozen in a sprint, runs 70 kilometers per hour. For fun, Felix. They run that fast for fun. But house cats don't do that, Felix said weakly. Don't they? Huxley pulled up a slow-motion video of a house cat hunting a small earth rodent. The footage was genuinely horrifying. The calculated stalk, the patient wait, the explosive pounce, the precise bite to the neck. This is what humans watch and call adorable. They make compilation videos of this. Mittens Catches Mouse has 60 million views, and the comments are all heart emojis. They sat in horrified silence for several minutes, processing the fact that their easy assignment had somehow become an exploration of why humans voluntarily lived with creatures that could, theoretically, hunt them. Maybe it's just dogs and cats, Felix said finally. Maybe those are anomalies. They heard a commotion from across the study lounge and looked over to see Lopik, the student researching ferrets, staring at his display with his ears completely inverted, a sign of extreme Quillan distress. "You two need to see this," Lopik called out, his voice shaking. They shuffled over, neither particularly eager for more nightmare fuel but too curious to resist. Lopik's screen showed a long, tube-shaped creature with dark fur and bright eyes. It looked innocent enough until the video started playing, and the creature moved with a sinuous, predatory grace that was deeply unsettling. "Ferrets," Lopik said, "are mustelids. Do you know what else are mustelids? Wolverines, honey badgers, otters." "Otters seem harmless," Felix offered. Lopik pulled up a video of sea otters cracking open shellfish against their chests. Then another video of river otters hunting fish with terrifying efficiency. Then, just to really drive the point home, footage of a wolverine driving off a bear. "They're all in the same family," Lopik continued, his voice getting higher with each word. "And humans keep them in their homes. They let them run around loose. There are videos of ferrets sleeping in human beds. Sleeping in beds. At least they're small," Huxley tried. "Small but mighty. Look at this." Lopik showed them a clip of a ferret squeezing through an impossibly narrow gap. "They can fit through any opening their skull can pass through. They're escape artists. They're thieves. They steal and hoard shiny objects. And their bite? Relative to their body size, it's incredibly powerful. They were historically used to hunt rabbits." All three Quillen students instinctively moved closer together. "My species," Lopik said, "was literally prey for the creatures humans keep as pets." From her pool seat across the room, Usha made a distressed burbling sound that the translator rendered as something between a sob and hysterical laughter. "Please don't tell us snakes are worse," Felix called over. "Snakes don't have limbs." Uxa's translator practically screamed. "They don't have arms. They don't have legs. And yet somehow, they're efficient predators. Do you know how pythons kill? They squeeze. They wrap around prey and constrict until the prey can't breathe. Some of the snakes humans keep can swallow prey whole. Whole. That's larger than their own head." "But they're in cages, right?" Huxley said desperately. "Humans keep them secured?" "Oh, they're supposed to be. But I found 17 incident reports of escaped pet pythons in just one Earth year. 17. And the humans who own them always say the same thing. He's never been aggressive before. He's a snake. Aggression is his default setting." The study lounge had gone very quiet, as more and more students pulled up their own research and began making similar discoveries. A PICS student researching parrots discovered that many species had beaks capable of cracking nuts and bones. A Quillen studying rabbits, actual Earth rabbits, not Quillen people, found out humans kept them despite rabbits being prey animals, which was somehow both comforting and weird. At least those made sense as pets, right? Wrong. Apparently, humans also kept tarantulas, scorpions, species of fish that could strip flesh from bone in minutes. One student found records of humans keeping actual crocodilians as emotional support animals, which had to be a translation error, except it wasn't. Felix returned to his own research with a growing sense of existential dread, digging deeper into human-dog relationships throughout history. What he found didn't make him feel better. Humans hadn't just domesticated wolves, they'd selectively bred them. For thousands of years, humans had been actively creating new varieties of dogs for specific purposes, and those purposes were illuminating. Hunting dogs, bred to chase and retrieve prey. Herding dogs, bred to control the movement of other animals through intimidation and coordinated pack behavior. Guard dogs, bred to be territorial and protective, sometimes weighing over 80 kilograms of pure muscle. Fighting dogs, and that category name alone was enough to make Felix need another stimulant beverage. He found historical paintings from various human cultures showing dogs in battle, wearing armor, fighting alongside human soldiers. Dogs trained to detect explosives, to track fugitives across vast distances, to patrol borders and apprehend intruders. And then he found the really disturbing part: bite sport videos. Humans had created entire competitions where dogs demonstrated their biting power and grip strength, clamping onto padded sleeves worn by humans who seemed thrilled about being bitten by animals strong enough to break their bones. They trained them to bite, Felix muttered, watching footage of a Belgian Malinois launching itself at a padded decoy, gripping with such force that the human inside was lifted off the ground. They actively encourage the predatory behavior and then reward it with treats and praise. Huxley, meanwhile, had fallen into the rabbit hole, wrong metaphor, poor word choice, of cat hunting videos. Not cute house cats batting at toy mice, wild cats, big cats, footage of leopards dragging prey twice their size up trees, videos of domestic cats bringing gifts to their humans, dead birds, dead rodents, occasionally dead reptiles, all presented with proud meows like, "Look what I killed for you." "They're teaching their young," Huxley said numbly, watching a mother cat demonstrate hunting techniques to her kittens. "This isn't just instinct. They're actively passing down predatory knowledge through generations, and humans film it. They think it's precious." The study lounge had transformed from a place of academic cooperation into a support group for students experiencing species-specific existential crises. "My presentation is in 2 weeks," Felix said to no one in particular. "I have to stand in front of Dr. Phantom and explain that humans voluntarily keep descendants of apex predators in their living spaces and dress them in sweaters." "At least your predators wear sweaters," Uksha called from her pool. "Mine are reptiles. They're cold-blooded. Do you know what that means? It means they can survive on very little food. They're efficient killers." "Mine steal things," Lopik added, his ears still inverted. "Mine had entire civilizations worship them as gods." Huxley's crest was doing things that probably weren't anatomically normal, and that's when the classroom forum notification pinged on everyone's tablets simultaneously. Dr. Phantom had posted an announcement. "I trust you're all enjoying your research. Tomorrow's class will be particularly interesting as we have a special guest joining us, a human exchange student who will be sharing first-hand experiences with pet ownership. Please prepare thoughtful questions. See you then." Felix and Huxley looked at each other. A human, with first-hand experience, living with predators. "I think I need to lie down," Felix said. "We're already sitting." "Then I need to lie down more." They had less than 24 hours to mentally prepare for meeting someone who genuinely, willingly, shared living space with creatures that evolution had specifically designed Felix's species to run away from. This was going to be educational, all right. Possibly traumatic, but definitely educational. Felix arrived to class the next day looking like he'd been chased by wolves, which was ironic, considering that's exactly what his ancestors probably experienced. He'd prepared a list of questions on his tablet, carefully worded, academically phrased inquiries that wouldn't reveal just how terrified he was of the answers. Huxley sat beside him, feathers groomed to nervous perfection, his crest twitching every few seconds like a malfunctioning antenna. "Maybe she won't be scary," Huxley whispered. "She lives with predators, Huxley. Plural. Multiple predatory species in her home. Maybe small ones? That makes it worse. If they're small, that means she's confident enough to keep multiple apex hunters in close quarters." Dr. Phantom entered, and beside him walked the human exchange student. Hallie was not what Felix expected. She was short by human standards, maybe 160 centimeters, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and a bright smile that showed her teeth. Her teeth! Forward-facing eyes, binocular vision, the unmistakable markers of a predator species, and yet she bounced into the room with so much enthusiasm she might as well have been a puppy herself. "Hi, everyone." Her voice was warm, friendly, completely at odds with her predatory anatomy. "I'm so excited to be here. Dr. Phantom told me you've been studying Earth pets, and I just love talking about animals." The class managed weak greetings in various languages, all filtered through translators that couldn't quite capture the underlying terror. "Hallie has graciously agreed to answer your questions about pet ownership," Dr. Phantom said, settling into his chair with that same knowing look he'd been wearing all week. "Please, don't be shy." The silence stretched for several uncomfortable seconds before Lopik raised a trembling paw. You really keep ferrets? In your dwelling?" "Oh, yes. 2 of them. Pepper and Pickle." Hallie's face lit up. "They're absolutely hilarious. Pepper's the troublemaker. Last week she stole my phone stylus and hid it inside my couch. Took me 3 hours to find it." "And you're not concerned about the stealing?" "Concerned? No, it's just what they do. It's enrichment for them. Keeps their minds active." Hallie pulled out her phone, humans and their primitive personal devices, and showed a video of 2 long, sinuous creatures wrestling with each other. "See? They're playing. So cute." "Playing." She called the combat practice playing. Felix found his voice, though it came out higher than intended. What about dogs? The research says you have dogs." "2. I have a terrier mix named Poppy and a shepherd mix named Tank." "Tank." She named a predator Tank. "And they're large?" "Tank's about 35 kilograms. Poppy's smaller, maybe 8 kilograms. But don't let her size fool you. She's got the personality of a dog 3 times her size." Hallie scrolled through her phone. "Here, look." She held up the screen, and Felix found himself staring at an image of Hallie sleeping on a cushioned platform, bracketed on both sides by dogs. The larger one, Tank presumably, had its head resting on her shoulder. The smaller one was curled against her stomach. "You sleep with them?" Huxley's voice cracked on the last word. "Of course! Where else would they sleep? They're pack animals. They want to be close to their family." Hallie said this like it was the most obvious thing in the universe. "Tank actually gets anxious if he can't sleep in my room. He'll whine at the door until I let him in." "But aren't you worried about—" Felix gestured vaguely. "The teeth?" Hallie blinked, genuinely confused. "The teeth? Why would I worry about teeth?" "Because they're descended from wolves." Felix hadn't meant to shout that, but it came out anyway. "Oh, you learned about wolf ancestry." "Yes, dogs are technically a subspecies of Canis lupus. Isn't evolution fascinating?" Hallie seemed delighted by this fact, rather than horrified. "But domestication changed their behavior significantly. Dogs evolved alongside humans for thousands of years. We shaped each other, really." "But they still have the instincts," Lopik pressed. "The hunting instincts." "Well, sure. Poppy's a terrier. She was bred to hunt rats. She caught one in my garden last month and was so proud of herself." Hallie laughed at the memory. "Brought it right to me like, 'Look what I did, Mom.' I praised her because, that's literally what terriers are supposed to do." The Quillen students exchanged horrified glances. She praised the hunting behavior. Usa burbled a question through her translator. "And you mentioned cats? How many cats?" "3! Pumpkin, turnip, and fennel. Yes, I have a vegetable naming theme going." Hallie pulled up more photos. "Pumpkin's the oldest. She's 12. Turnip is 5 and absolutely chaotic. Fennel's the baby at 2 years old." The photos showed various cats in typical cat poses. loafing on furniture, sprawled in sunbeams, sitting in boxes. One image showed a large orange cat, Pumpkin, apparently, with a dead mouse at her feet, looking immensely satisfied. "She's an excellent hunter," Hallie said fondly, not noticing the collective flinch from the PIC's students. "Keeps the pest population down. Sometimes she brings them inside to show me, which is gross, but also kind of sweet, like she's sharing her hunt with me." "Sweet!" Huxley's crest shot straight up. "She brings you corpses." "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad," Hallie admitted. "But it's instinctual behavior. In cat colonies, cats will bring food to other colony members. She thinks I'm a terrible hunter. I mean, I've never caught a mouse in my life. So she's not wrong, and she's trying to feed me." "Let me understand this correctly," Dr. Phantom interjected, his tone professionally neutral, but his eyes twinkling. "You live with 5 predatory animals, 2 canines descended from pack hunters, 3 felines that are obligate carnivores, and you consider this normal?" "Completely normal. Millions of humans have pets. Billions, probably, if you count all of Earth." Hallie shrugged. "I honestly can't imagine life without animals. They're family." "Family," Felix repeated weakly. "You consider predators to be family." "They're not really predators in the scary sense, though. They're domesticated. Poppy's afraid of the vacuum cleaner. Tank won't go down the stairs to the basement because he thinks it's haunted or something. Turnip is terrified of plastic bags. They're just animals. Friends. Companions." A student from the back, a Kel named Ito, raised a webbed hand. "But surely you take precautions? Secure them when you're sleeping? Lock them away?" "Lock them away? No. Why would I do that?" Hallie looked genuinely distressed by the suggestion. "That would be cruel. They have free run of the house. Well, except the ferrets. They're in a large habitat when I'm not home because otherwise they'll get into everything. But the dogs and cats? They go wherever they want." "Wherever they want," Lopik echoed faintly. "Even in your sleeping quarters?" Ito pressed. "Especially in my sleeping quarters. That's like prime pet real estate." Hallie pulled up another photo, her entire bed covered in various animals, all piled together. "This is from last weekend. Everyone decided to nap together. It was impossible to move without disturbing someone, but it was so cozy." The image showed complete chaos. A large dog stretched across the bottom of the bed, a smaller dog nestled against Hallie's side, 3 cats distributed across various pillows and blankets, all deeply asleep. And in the middle of this pile of predators, Hallie smiled at the camera, looking perfectly content. "You're surrounded," Huxley said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Completely surrounded by hunters." "I'm surrounded by family," Hallie corrected gently. "There's a difference." "But what if they—" Felix struggled to articulate his fear. "What if they decide to hunt you?" Hallie's expression softened with understanding. "Oh. Oh, I see. You're from prey species backgrounds, aren't you? This must seem really strange." She sat on the edge of Dr. Phantom's desk, her posture open and relaxed. "Here's the thing about domestication. It's not just about humans changing animals. It's about mutual trust. Dogs trust us to feed them, shelter them, care for them. We trust them not to hurt us. That trust was built over thousands of years." "But accidents happen," Lopik said. "Surely there are incidents." "Sure, accidents happen with any animal. People get hurt. But statistically, you're more likely to be injured by another human than by a pet dog or cat. The vast majority of pets live their entire lives without ever harming their humans." Hallie's voice was patient, educational. And when incidents do occur, it's usually because something went wrong. The animal was sick, scared, poorly trained, or abused. Healthy, well-cared-for pets are incredibly safe. Safe, Felix said, tasting the word like it was foreign. You consider sleeping next to a 35-kilogram predator descendant to be safe. I consider Tank to be a big baby, who's afraid of thunderstorms and cries. When I leave for more than 2 hours, Hallie smiled. Last week he saw his own shadow and barked at it for 5 minutes. He's not exactly an apex predator anymore. Dr. Phantom spoke up. Hallie, could you explain what you think this says about humans? About human nature? Hallie considered the question seriously. I think humans have always been good at seeing potential in things. We didn't look at wolves and see just predators. We saw possible partners, working companions, friends. Same with cats. They kept pests away from our grain stores. We gave them shelter and food scraps. It was mutually beneficial. But it's more than that now, Dr. Phantom prompted. You don't keep pets for pest control. No, Hallie agreed. Now we keep them because we love them, because they make us happy, because coming home to excited dogs and purring cats makes a bad day better. They don't judge us. They don't care if we're successful or rich or beautiful. They just love us back. The classroom was silent, processing this information. Humans, Huxley said slowly, befriended predators not because you had to, but because you wanted to? Pretty much, yeah. Even though they could theoretically hurt you? Most things could theoretically hurt me. Other humans, definitely. But I don't live in fear of theoretical danger. I live with actual love. Hallie stood, brushing off her pants. Look, I get that this is weird from your perspective, but from mine, the weird thing would be living without animals. A house without pets feels empty, lonely. Felix thought about his dormitory pod, quiet, peaceful, safe, empty. Maybe Hallie had a point, a very small point, a point he wasn't ready to fully accept, but could maybe, possibly, begin to understand if he squinted at it from the right angle. Any other questions? Dr. Phantom asked. The class had plenty, but most students were too overwhelmed to articulate them. They'd spent days learning about predatory capabilities and hunting instincts, only to have a human waltz in and explain it all as cozy family bonding time. The cognitive dissonance was profound. Hallie stayed for another 20 minutes, showing more photos and videos, answering questions about feeding schedules and veterinary care, and something called enrichment toys. By the end, she'd almost made it seem reasonable. Almost. As she left, waving cheerfully to the traumatized class, Dr. Phantom stood at the front of the room with his arms crossed. Well, he said, still think this is an easy assignment? The collective groan that answered him suggested that no, they definitely did not. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of research, revelation, and reluctant respect. Felix had stopped sleeping properly, not from fear anymore, but from fascination. Every video he watched, every journal he read, every historical account he studied painted the same picture. Humans didn't just coexist with predators, they thrived alongside them. Presentation day arrived with typical academic ceremony, which meant Dr. Phantom looked even more amused than usual, and the students looked varying degrees of traumatized. Felix went first, his ears only slightly flattened as he pulled up his presentation hologram. Canine domestication, he began, voice steadier than expected, represents one of the most successful interspecies partnerships in documented history. Humans took Canis lupus, pack hunters, apex predators, and through selective breeding and mutual cooperation, created over 300 distinct breeds, serving purposes from companionship to search and rescue operations. He showed footage of working dogs, guide dogs leading blind humans, therapy dogs comforting hospital patients, search dogs finding disaster survivors. Then, the personal videos. Dogs greeting returning soldiers, protecting human children, grieving at their owners' graves. They didn't remove the predator, Felix said quietly. They redirected it. The loyalty that made wolves effective pack hunters became devotion to human families. The territorial instincts became protective behaviors. The hunting drive became play, work, purpose. He paused. Humans saw wolves and thought partner, not threat. That's remarkable. Huxley followed with cats, his crest finally at normal height. Felines essentially domesticated themselves, choosing human proximity for mutual benefit. Unlike dogs, they retained significant independence, yet still formed genuine bonds. He showed videos of cats needing their humans, purring in laps, following their people room to room. They're predators who chose not to be solitary. That's fascinating from an evolutionary standpoint. Other presentations followed. Lopik explained how ferrets' hunting instincts translated to playful energy. Uksa discussed snake cognition and recognition of individual humans. Every student reached similar conclusions. Humans didn't fear predatory nature. They worked with it. Dr. Phantom stood for his closing remarks, antlers gleaming under the classroom lights. This assignment, he said, wasn't really about pets. It was about perspective, about understanding that humans don't approach threats the way most species do. They don't always fight or flee. Sometimes they negotiate, they partner, they find common ground with creatures that should be enemies. He gestured to the various presentations still hovering in holographic form. This approach extends beyond animals. It's how they conduct diplomacy, how they build alliances, how they've integrated into the galactic community. Where we see insurmountable differences, humans see potential friendships. They're either brilliant or insane, Felix muttered. Perhaps both, Dr. Phantom agreed, hearing him. But that's exactly why they're succeeding out here among the stars. That evening, Felix received a message from Hallie. A video of Tank sleeping upside down, legs in the air, snoring, loudly. "Fearsome predator," the caption read, with a laughing emoji. Felix found himself smiling, then immediately checked the galactic adoption networks. Not for a dog. Definitely not for a dog. Maybe a fish? A very small fish, in a very secure tank. He'd think about it. Humans had somehow convinced him that living with a predator was normal, which meant they were either the best diplomats in the galaxy or had collectively gaslit every other species into accepting their insanity as wisdom. Felix suspected it was both. And honestly, that was the most human thing possible.